I'm Eden, 29, staring at the bank notification on my phone in disbelief. The number on my screen makes my stomach drop. Just 3 days ago, my father's words still echo in my ears. It's just a little help. You're selfish. All because I refused to buy my sister Amber a new car. Little did I know that standing my ground would uncover years of financial deception that would change everything. Where are you watching from today? Drop a comment below, hit subscribe, and stay tuned to hear how I discovered my family's shocking betrayal and finally took back control of my life. I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood in Phoenix, Arizona. Our house was modest but comfortable with a small backyard where I spent hours reading under the shade of an old mesquite tree. My father, Robert, worked as an insurance agent, always dressed in pressed shirts and ties, even on weekends. He carried himself with an air of authority that demanded respect, or rather compliance. My mother, Linda, was his perfect counterpart, soft-spoken and quick to smooth over any tension with her nervous laughter and homemade cookies. Then there was Amber, my sister, 5 years younger than me, and the undisputed princess of our household from the moment she was born. I have vague memories of life before Amber, when my parents would take me to the park and listen attentively to my stories about kindergarten adventures. But those memories feel like they belong to someone else's life. The differences in how we were treated became apparent early on. When I was 16 and wanted to join the school band, I was told I needed to pay for my own instrument. I took a job at the local grocery store, bagging items and collecting shopping carts in the Arizona heat. Meanwhile, Amber received a brand new violin for her 11th birthday, just because she mentioned a passing interest in music during dinner one night. "Your sister has natural talent," my father explained when I questioned the double standard. "We need to nurture that." The violin collected dust in her closet 3 months later. School supplies shopping highlighted the disparity even more. I carefully budgeted my earnings to buy the basics while my parents loaded Amber's cart with decorative notebooks, fancy pens, and the trendiest backpack every single year. "Your sister needs confidence boosters," my mother would say when I pointed out the unfairness. "You've always been so independent and strong." Their praise for my independence was really code for "we expect you to handle things yourself." When I won the state math competition in junior year, my parents attended, but spent most of the ceremony discussing Amber's upcoming dance recital. My gold certificate was briefly acknowledged before being tucked away in a drawer. 2 weeks later, they threw a party for Amber's participation award in a local art contest, inviting extended family and neighbors to celebrate her creative spirit. Everything changed even more dramatically when I was 15. My father made a risky investment in his friend's startup that promised incredible returns. Instead, he lost nearly all of their savings. Suddenly, our family's financial struggles became the centerpiece of every conversation, with one notable exception: Amber remained untouched by these new constraints. I started working more hours and contributing to household expenses. I became the unofficial family accountant, helping my mother stretch grocery money and finding ways to cut costs. All while Amber continued her dance classes, summer camps, and social activities as if nothing had changed. "We can't let your sister know how bad things are," my father instructed me. "She's too sensitive." The most painful memory from those years came right after my high school graduation. I had been accepted to Arizona State University and had been promised that my parents had a small college fund set aside for me. I'd been counting on that money to supplement my scholarships and part-time work. The night after graduation, my parents sat me down at our kitchen table. The overhead light cast harsh shadows on their uncomfortable expressions. "Eden, we need to talk about your college fund," my father began, not quite meeting my eyes. "There's been a change of plans." My mother fidgeted with her napkin, folding and unfolding it repeatedly. "Westwood Academy has accepted Amber for next year," my father continued. "It's a tremendous opportunity, but the tuition is significant." I felt a cold weight settling in my stomach as I realized where this was going. "We've decided to use your college fund for Amber's private high school," he stated flatly, as if he were discussing a change in dinner plans rather than altering the trajectory of my future. You're smart and resourceful. You'll figure out how to manage with your scholarships. I remember sitting there stunned into silence while my mother rushed to add, It's really for the best, honey. Amber needs the structure and opportunities Westwood provides. You're already so good at taking care of yourself. That night, I cried silently in my bedroom, but by morning, I had already started researching student loans and additional scholarship opportunities. I had no choice but to move forward. The one bright spot during those years was my relationship with Grandpa Joe, my father's father. Unlike my parents, Grandpa Joe noticed the disparity in how we were treated. During my monthly visits to his small apartment, he taught me about budgeting, investing, and the importance of financial independence. Never let anyone control you through money, Eden, he would say, his weathered hands cupping mine as he placed coins in my palm to demonstrate a savings concept. Not even family, especially not family. I didn't fully understand the weight of his words then, but they would become my guiding principle in the years to come. Little did I know that Grandpa Joe was doing more than just offering advice. He was preparing me for a future where I would need to protect myself from the very people who should have been protecting me. College became my escape and my proving ground. I attended Arizona State University with a partial academic scholarship, but that only covered about half of my tuition. The rest came from federal student loans and my earnings from juggling 2, sometimes 3 part-time jobs. My typical weekday started at 5 in the morning with a shift at the campus coffee shop before classes. Evenings were split between the university library where I worked at the reference desk and studying until my eyes burned. Weekends meant waitressing at a busy restaurant near campus where I learned to smile through exhaustion for better tips. Meanwhile, Amber's private high school education continued without interruption. During holiday breaks, she would casually mention weekend trips with friends or new clothes, seemingly oblivious to how different our circumstances were. You should come shopping with me and Mom next weekend, she'd say, scrolling through her phone while I calculated how many extra shifts I needed to cover next semester's books. Can't. I'm working, was my standard response. My mother would sigh. You work too hard, Eden. You should enjoy college more. The irony was painful. They had created the circumstances that required my constant work, yet criticized me for the very resilience they had forced me to develop. During my sophomore year, I met Taylor when we were assigned as roommates. She came from a loving middle-class family from Wisconsin who treated their children equally. Watching her interactions with her parents during their visits was like observing an alien species. They asked about her studies, celebrated her achievements, and never once made her feel guilty for their financial support. Your parents seem nice, I commented after their first visit. They are, Taylor replied simply. Then after a pause, your family situation sounds really unfair. It was the first time anyone had so directly acknowledged what I had experienced my entire life. That simple validation cracked something open inside me. Taylor became my first real friend in college and introduced me to her circle of supportive, ambitious friends who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. Through them, I began to understand what healthy relationships looked like. In my junior year, I took a financial management course with Professor Harrison, a sharp-eyed woman with silver-streaked hair who had worked on Wall Street before turning to academia. She noticed my aptitude for numbers and my dedication. After I aced her midterm exam, she called me into her office. You have a gift for this, she said, gesturing to my perfect test paper. Have you considered a career in financial consulting? Under her mentorship, I secured a competitive internship at Westridge Financial Consulting during my senior year. The internship came with a modest stipend that allowed me to reduce my other work hours slightly and focus more on building professional experience. During this time, Amber's entitlement reached new heights. She had started college herself at an expensive private university fully funded by my parents. Yet she constantly called me with emergencies that were anything but. Eden, I need $500 for a trip with the psychology club, she demanded during one call. I don't have $500 to spare, Amber, I responded truthfully. But it's important for networking. Mom and Dad already contributed, but I need a little more. It's just money. You can always make more. Just money. The dismissive phrase revealed how little she understood about financial security or struggle. The most frustrating calls were the ones where my parents would pressure me to be generous with my sister. Your sister really needs a new laptop for her design course, my father said during one such call. We thought you might want to help out since you're working in finance now. I was still an intern making barely above minimum wage. The assumption that I had extra funds to spare was both laughable and infuriating. I'm still paying off my own student loans, Dad, I reminded him. I can't afford to buy Amber a laptop. His disappointed sigh spoke volumes. I thought we raised you to care about family. Despite these ongoing pressures, I graduated with honors and was offered an entry-level position at Westridge Financial, the firm where I had interned. The salary wasn't exceptional, but it was stable and came with benefits, my first step toward genuine financial security. Finding my first apartment was an exercise in careful budgeting. I scoured listings for weeks comparing commute times, utilities, and safety ratings to find the best value. Every piece of furniture was carefully researched for the optimal balance of quality and affordability. I bought nothing on credit saving until I could pay cash for each item. 6 months after starting my full-time position, Amber called with another request. This time, she wanted me to co-sign for her first credit card. Mom and Dad said you have a good credit score now because of your job, she explained. I need to start building credit too, but I got rejected when I applied on my own. I took a deep breath. Amber co-signing would make me legally responsible for any debt you incur. I can't take that risk. It's not like I'm irresponsible with money, she protested. The statement was so disconnected from reality that I nearly laughed. Amber had never paid a bill in her life. My answer is no, I said firmly. That evening, both my parents called to express their disappointment in my decision. Family helps family, my mother insisted. What if you needed our help someday? The question was so hypothetical as to be absurd. I had needed their help many times, and it had rarely materialized, at least not for me. That night marked my first major boundary with my family regarding money. It wouldn't be the last, but it was the first time I chose financial self-preservation over their approval. Though their disappointment stung, the sense of protecting myself felt oddly liberating. The next 5 years at Westridge Financial transformed me from an uncertain novice to a confident professional. I specialized in wealth management, helping clients build sustainable financial futures, the very thing I was meticulously creating for myself. My starting salary of $45,000 grew steadily with each performance review and promotion. By the time I reached senior consultant status, I had established a financial foundation that my younger self could only have dreamed of: a fully funded emergency account with 6 months of expenses, regular contributions to my retirement accounts, and a modest but growing investment portfolio. More importantly, I had built these things without support, a fact that filled me with both pride and a lingering sadness for what should have been different. Despite my professional progress, family gatherings remained exercises in financial manipulation. Holiday dinners inevitably included not-so-subtle hints about financial opportunities that required my contribution. Amber's planning a spring break trip to Cancun with her friends, my mother mentioned during one Thanksgiving dinner. We're helping with the airfare, but thought you might want to chip in for her resort stay. You know how important these college experiences are. I nodded, taking another bite of mashed potatoes to avoid responding immediately. My own college spring breaks had been spent picking up extra shifts or catching up on assignments. My father's requests were more direct. I'm starting a side business selling specialty insurance packages, he announced during a Christmas visit. I'm looking for initial investors. Great returns, minimal risk. I thought you'd want first opportunity since you're in finance. I had reviewed his hastily assembled business plan, noting the significant gaps in market research and revenue projections. I don't mix family and investments, Dad. It's not personal, it's a financial boundary I maintain. His face hardened. I see. Too good to help your old man now that you've got that fancy title. Each refusal added another layer of tension, another reason for strained conversation and shortened visits. When I turned 27, I purchased a modest condo in a developing area of Phoenix. It wasn't luxurious, but it was mine, 2 bedrooms, 1.5 baths with a small balcony overlooking a community garden. I had saved diligently for the down payment, living well below my means for years. The day I got my keys, I posted a simple photo on social media with the caption, "Homeowner at last." My mother called within the hour. "The condo looks lovely, sweetheart. Your father and I were just saying how nice it would be to have a property investment of our own. Maybe a vacation rental. If only we had the down payment." The hint was clear, but I pretended not to notice. "It took me 4 years of aggressive saving to afford this place, Mom. Real estate is certainly a commitment." These interactions became so predictable that I developed a kind of internal bingo card. Amber needs money, center square, free space. Dad has a business opportunity. Mom mentions how tight things are financially. Someone references my good fortune, as if my financial stability were a lottery win rather than the result of careful planning and hard work. During this time, I met Mark through a volunteer program at a local financial literacy organization. He taught workshops for high school students, while I mentored young adults aging out of foster care. Our shared passion for empowering others through financial education sparked an immediate connection. Mark came from a family where money was discussed openly but never used as leverage. His parents had taught their children about budgeting and saving from an early age and had treated all siblings equally. The contrast with my own upbringing was stark. After dating for a few months, Mark accompanied me to a family dinner. I had warned him about the potential for financial discussions, but experiencing it firsthand clearly shocked him. "Your watch is beautiful," my mother commented to Mark during dinner. "Eden mentioned you work at Arizona Central Bank. They must pay well." "Eden's condo must have appreciated nicely by now," my father added. "Smart investment in that neighborhood." Speaking of investments, my mother segued smoothly. "Amber's car is giving her trouble again. We're helping her look at new options." On the drive home, Mark was uncharacteristically quiet. "That was intense," he finally said. "They spent the entire dinner probing our finances and dropping hints." I nodded, unsurprised but embarrassed. "Welcome to the family dynamic. Your sister's lifestyle doesn't match her administrative assistant salary," he observed carefully. "Those were designer shoes and a premium handbag she was carrying." "Amber has never had to align her spending with her income," I explained. "My parents always cover the gap." As Mark and I grew closer, he helped me recognize patterns I had normalized. His gentle observations highlighted the unhealthy financial dynamics that had been my reality for so long. "It's not normal to expect one child to be financially independent while subsidizing another," he noted after another family dinner where Amber had bragged about her upcoming European vacation despite being between jobs. "Your parents create these financial crises through poor planning, then expect you to rescue them," he observed after my father called, asking for help with an overdue property tax bill. With Mark's support, I began to strengthen my boundaries, limiting my financial involvement with my family, while still maintaining contact. I thought we had reached a sustainable equilibrium until the day of the car confrontation changed everything. The invitation came via text from my mother. "Family dinner this Sunday? It's been too long. Dad's grilling steaks." Something about the casual tone raised my suspicions. My parents rarely invited me over without an agenda. I mentioned my concerns to Mark the night before the dinner. "I have a feeling they're going to ask for something big. They've been dropping hints about helping Amber with a car for weeks." "You don't have to go," Mark reminded me. Or we could go together. No, I need to handle this myself, I decided. But I'll call you right after. When I arrived at my parents' house that Sunday, I immediately noticed the new living room furniture, a plush sectional sofa, and matching armchair that must have cost thousands. It was an odd purchase for people who claimed to be struggling financially. My mother greeted me with a hug. The living room looks different, I commented. Oh, we got such a good deal, she deflected quickly. Come help me with the salad. Dinner was a strange affair. My father discussed sports with unusual enthusiasm. My mother asked detailed questions about my recent business trip to Chicago. Amber was suspiciously attentive, complimenting my new haircut and asking about Mark. Nobody mentioned money, a first in family history. After dessert, my father cleared his throat. Let's move to the living room. We have a family matter to discuss. The new sofa was as uncomfortable as the conversation that followed. Amber's car broke down completely last week. My father began, his tone already defensive. The mechanic says it's not worth fixing, needs a new transmission, plus there's rust damage to the frame. Amber nodded solemnly. It's been making weird noises for months. Now it won't even start. That's tough, I said neutrally. What are you thinking of doing? My mother jumped in. Well, that's what we wanted to talk to you about. Amber needs a reliable car for commuting to work. We've been looking at options. My father pulled out his phone and turned it toward me, showing a web page for a brand new Honda Accord, fully loaded. This model has excellent safety ratings and good fuel economy. The dealer has one in silver with all the features Amber wants. I waited for the other shoe to drop. It comes to $32,000 with tax and fees, he continued. We can put down $5,000, and we were hoping you could cover the rest. You mentioned your recent promotion, and we know you've always been good with money. I stared at him, momentarily speechless. They weren't asking me to help with a down payment or co-sign a loan. They wanted me to pay for nearly the entire car. That's a significant request, I finally managed. Why not look at reliable used cars? You could find something good for half that price. Amber wrinkled her nose. Used cars have other people's problems, and I need the advanced safety features of the newer models. Have you saved anything toward a car yourself? I asked her directly. She exchanged glances with my parents. I've had some unexpected expenses lately. My apartment needed new furniture, and there was that dental work in February. So nothing, I translated. My father's expression hardened. Eden, your sister needs help. We're not asking you to pay for a luxury car. I took a deep breath. A brand new Accord with all the upgrades is absolutely a luxury for someone's first self-purchased car. I'm happy to help Amber find a reliable used car in the $15,000 range. I could contribute $3,000 toward it if she can match that amount. My mother gasped as if I'd suggested Amber should hitchhike. That's barely anything. You know she doesn't make what you make. I understand that, I said evenly. But I made much less when I bought my first car, a 10-year-old Toyota with 120,000 miles on it that I saved for over a year to afford. My father's face flushed with anger. That's different. You've always been independent. Amber needs more support. Why is that exactly? I asked, feeling a lifetime of resentment bubbling to the surface. Why has Amber always needed more support while I've been expected to figure things out on my own? It's just a little help. You're selfish, my father shouted, standing up so suddenly that I flinched. After everything we've done for you. The room fell silent. 29 years of unequal treatment crystallized in that moment of accusation. What exactly have you done for me? I asked quietly. You used my college fund for Amber's private school. I worked through college while you paid her full tuition. I've never once asked you for financial help as an adult while you and Amber constantly expect me to supplement your lifestyle. We raised you, my mother interjected tearfully. We gave you a home and food and clothes. That's the basic obligation of parenthood, I replied, standing up myself. Not something I need to repay by buying my adult sister a brand new car. So you're refusing to help your family when we need you, my father stated flatly. I offered a reasonable alternative. You rejected it. I'm not going to drain my savings for a luxury purchase when there are practical options available. Then maybe you don't need to be part of this family anymore, my father said coldly. If money is more important to you than your sister's well-being. Amber began to cry perfectly timed tears that had always worked to get her way. I don't understand why you hate me so much, Eden. I looked at each of their faces, my father's righteous anger, my mother's manipulative distress, Amber's practiced victimhood. The weight of decades of emotional and financial manipulation suddenly felt unbearable. I don't hate you, Amber, but I won't be financially exploited anymore. I picked up my purse and keys. When you're ready to discuss realistic solutions where everyone contributes appropriately, I'm willing to talk. Until then, I think we need some space. If you walk out that door, don't expect to be welcomed back, my father threatened. I paused at the threshold, a lifetime of conditioning making me hesitate. Then I straightened my shoulders and walked out without another word. The drive home passed in a blur. My hands shook on the steering wheel as adrenaline coursed through my system. I had finally said aloud what I'd been feeling for years, and there was no taking it back. As soon as I parked at my condo, I called Mark. His calm voice centered me as I recounted the confrontation. I'm proud of you for standing your ground, he said when I finished. That took incredible courage. It doesn't feel like courage, I admitted. It feels like I just blew up my family. You didn't blow up anything. You just stopped pretending the dynamic was healthy. That night, as I lay awake replaying the argument, my phone buzzed repeatedly with texts and calls from my family. I finally turned it off, unable to face their reactions. In the morning light, I scrolled through their messages from Dad. Your behavior was inexcusable. Your sister is devastated. I expected better from you. From Mom. Please call us. We can work this out. Family should always come first. From Amber. Thanks for ruining everything. I have to get to work somehow. Not that you care. 7 more messages followed in the same vein, oscillating between guilt, anger, and manipulation. None acknowledged my perspective or offered compromise. I forwarded the messages to Dr. Rivera, the therapist I had been seeing sporadically since starting my job. Within an hour, she offered me an emergency appointment for that afternoon. What you're experiencing is a normal response to setting boundaries with family members who aren't accustomed to them, she explained during our session. The guilt, anxiety, and uncertainty are all expected reactions. I feel like I'm betraying them, I confessed. Refusing to be financially exploited isn't betrayal, she countered gently. Your family has established a pattern of unequal expectations that benefits everyone but you. Breaking that pattern will naturally create resistance. We spent the hour developing strategies for maintaining my boundaries while processing the complex emotions involved. I left with a clearer perspective and a plan for limited contact while I sorted through my feelings. That evening, I called Dr. Harrison, my former professor, who had become a mentor. Her practical advice complemented Dr. Rivera's emotional support. Financial boundaries with family are essential but rarely discussed, she noted. Write down every instance you can remember where you felt financially exploited by your family. Look for patterns and use them to strengthen your resolve. Following her advice, I created a document detailing years of financial disparities and manipulation. The list grew to 3 pages, single-spaced. Seeing it documented so clearly reinforced that I wasn't overreacting. The next day, I temporarily blocked my family's numbers. I needed space to think without the constant barrage of guilt-inducing messages. Mark respected my process, checking in with supportive texts, but giving me room to work through my thoughts. By the 3rd day, I had reached clarity. I couldn't continue the pattern of financial exploitation that had defined my relationship with my family. While I wasn't ready to cut contact permanently, I needed to establish firm, non-negotiable boundaries. I drafted an email to my parents and Amber. I've taken some time to reflect on our relationship and the expectations around money that have developed over the years. I value family, but I cannot continue to be seen as a financial resource rather than a daughter and sister. Moving forward, I will not be contributing to major purchases for any family member co-signing loans or investing in business ventures. I'm open to rebuilding our relationship on healthier terms that don't involve financial exploitation. I hope we can find a way forward that respects everyone's autonomy and dignity. I read it over 3 times, had Mark review it, then hit send before I could second-guess myself. It felt like releasing a breath I'd been holding for decades. That afternoon, as I was preparing for a client meeting, my phone rang with an unfamiliar local number. Thinking it might be related to work, I answered. "Is this Eden Mercer?" a formal male voice inquired. "Yes, speaking." "This is Richard Winters with the law firm of Winters & Associates. I was your grandfather, Joseph Mercer's attorney. I've been trying to reach you regarding an urgent matter. Could you come to my office today at 4? Confused and concerned, I rearranged my schedule and agreed to the meeting. Mr. Winters' office was in an older building downtown with dark wood paneling and framed diplomas covering the walls. The attorney himself was an elderly man with sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Thank you for coming on short notice," he said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. "I've been attempting to locate you for several days." "I've had some phone issues," I explained vaguely. "How can I help you?" He folded his hands on the desk. "I'm contacting you regarding a trust account established by your grandfather before his passing." "A trust account?" I repeated, bewildered. "I wasn't aware of any trust." "That's concerning, but not entirely surprising given what I've recently discovered," he said grimly. "Joseph established a trust for you when you were still in high school. It was to be managed by your parents until you reached the age of 30, at which point full control would transfer to you." My mind raced, struggling to process this information. My parents never mentioned anything about a trust. "I'm afraid there's more," Mr. Winters continued. "The terms of the trust required quarterly statements to be sent to my office. I recently received a notification from the bank of suspicious activity on the account, which prompted me to investigate. It appears that withdrawals have been made consistently over the years, accelerating in recent months. A cold sensation spread through my chest. Withdrawals? By whom? The account required dual signatures, both your parents for any withdrawal. The bank flagged recent activity because of an unusually large withdrawal attempt and some irregularities with the signatures. "How large was this trust originally?" I asked, my voice barely audible. Mr. Winters consulted a file. "Your grandfather deposited $250,000 initially. With proper management and interest, it should have grown significantly over the years." I felt dizzy. $250,000 money that could have paid for my education, eased my financial struggles during college, helped with my condo down payment. Money I never knew existed. "How much is left?" I asked, dreading the answer. "As of this morning, approximately $87,000. However, there was an attempt to withdraw $60,000 yesterday, which the bank has temporarily blocked pending investigation." $60,000, nearly double what my parents had asked me to contribute toward Amber's car. The timing couldn't be coincidental. "I need to see the account history," I said firmly. What followed was a grim education in betrayal. Mr. Winters arranged an emergency meeting with the bank's fraud department that same afternoon. The account manager, Ms. Patel, spread out years of statements on the conference room table. "The withdrawal pattern is quite distinctive," she explained, pointing to highlighted transactions. "Small regular withdrawals began about a year after the account was established, then larger withdrawals corresponding with significant dates." I traced the timeline with a growing sense of horror. $10,000 withdrawn the month Amber started private school. $25,000 when she began college, $15,000 during the period she had mentioned dental work and apartment furnishings. This withdrawal for $12,000, I noted, pointing to a recent transaction. That would have been right around the time my parents bought their new living room furniture. Ms. Patel nodded sympathetically. The most recent attempt for $60,000 was flagged because the signature for Robert Mercer showed inconsistencies with previous signatures. We believe someone may have been attempting to forge his signature. My mother, I whispered, remembering how my father had been the one to show me the car listing on his phone. Perhaps he hadn't even known about this latest attempt. As we concluded the meeting, Ms. Patel explained the next steps. We've frozen the account pending investigation. As the beneficiary, you can file a formal complaint to expedite the process. Given the evidence of potential fraud, you should consider legal options as well. I left the bank in a daze, clutching a folder of account statements that documented years of theft and deception. The people I had trusted most, the ones who had made me feel guilty for not giving them more, had been secretly taking what was rightfully mine all along. That evening, as I spread the statements across my dining table, my phone rang. It was my father. Eden, the bank is claiming there's a problem with your grandfather's account, he began without preamble. There's been some misunderstanding. I took a deep breath. I met with Grandpa Joe's attorney today, and the bank. There's no misunderstanding, Dad. You and Mom have been taking money from my trust for years. A long pause followed. It's not what you think, he finally said. We were just managing the money as your grandfather intended, making sure it went to family needs. Family needs like Amber's private school, her college tuition, your new furniture. My voice remained steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. All while watching me work multiple jobs and take on student loan debt. You were always so independent, he countered weakly. Amber needed the support more. So independent that 3 days ago you called me selfish for not buying her a car, when all along you were planning to use my trust fund money to do it. The painful irony wasn't lost on me. The bank has frozen the account, Dad, and I've spoken with a lawyer about recovering the misappropriated funds. You would sue your own parents. His shock seemed genuine. After everything we've done for you. The same phrase he'd used during our argument took on a new, darkly comic meaning now. What you've done is steal from me for over a decade. I haven't decided what legal action I'll take yet, but the theft stops today. I ended the call and immediately contacted Gloria Simmons, a lawyer specializing in financial abuse cases whom Dr. Harrison had recommended. We scheduled a consultation for the following morning. As I tried to sleep that night, I kept returning to Grandpa Joe's words. Never let anyone control you through money, Eden. Not even family. Especially not family. He had known. He had tried to protect me with the trust, never imagining that my parents would subvert his intentions so completely. The betrayal cut deep, but beneath the pain, I felt something unexpected, a sense of validation. I hadn't imagined the inequality. I hadn't been selfish for wanting fair treatment, and now I had proof. The weeks that followed the bank's revelation unfolded like a carefully orchestrated legal symphony, directed by Gloria Simmons with precise expertise. Our first meeting established the framework for what would become a comprehensive case against my parents. Financial exploitation within families is more common than people realize. Gloria explained, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a severe bun that matched her no-nonsense approach. But you have something many victims don't: clear documentation and a professional witness in Mr. Winters. She outlined our options from civil lawsuits to potential criminal charges depending on the extent of the fraud investigation. The forged signature on the most recent withdrawal attempt elevates this significantly, she noted. I opted to pursue recovery of the misappropriated funds through civil action, first with criminal charges held in reserve, depending on my parents' cooperation. I wanted accountability, not revenge. The legal process began with formal letters to my parents outlining the evidence and demanding repayment. Their initial response came through a hastily retained lawyer who attempted to characterize the withdrawals as loans and advances on inheritance that they had always intended to repay. Standard deflection tactics, Gloria dismissed after reviewing their response. They'll change their tune when they realize the strength of our evidence. She was right. When presented with the detailed forensic accounting report that tracked every misused dollar, my parents' attorney requested settlement discussions. They couldn't argue with bank statements, signature verifications, and the clear terms of Grandpa Joe's trust. Throughout this process, I maintained emotional distance through continued therapy with Dr. Rivera. "You're handling this with remarkable composure," she observed during one session. "How are you feeling about potentially recovering these funds?" "It feels like reclaiming something more than money," I reflected. "It's about acknowledging that what happened to me was wrong." 3 weeks into legal proceedings, I received an unexpected text from Amber. "Can we talk? Just us." We met at a neutral coffee shop downtown. Amber looked different, subdued, without her usual perfectly styled appearance. The designer handbag was notably absent. "Mom and Dad told me everything," she began after an awkward greeting. "About Grandpa's trust, the withdrawals." She stared into her untouched latte. "About how they've been using that money for me all these years." I waited, unsure where this was heading. "I didn't know," she continued, her voice small. "I mean, I knew they helped me more than you. I just thought—" She trailed off. "You thought they were just playing favorites with their own money?" I finished for her. "Not stealing mine." She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I feel horrible. All those times I called you selfish for not helping me more, and they were already taking your money without telling either of us." Her distress seemed genuine, but I maintained caution. "What do Mom and Dad say about all this now?" "Dad keeps saying he was just doing what was best for the family. Mom cries a lot." Amber wiped her eyes. "They're selling their house to repay you, and they asked me to sell my car to contribute." I hadn't known about these developments. Gloria had been handling all communication. "And how do you feel about that?" "Honestly embarrassed, ashamed." She met my eyes directly. "I've been spoiled my whole life at your expense, and I never even questioned it. I'm seeing a therapist now, trying to understand why I thought that was okay." It wasn't the response I had expected. For the first time, Amber seemed to be taking responsibility rather than positioning herself as a victim. "I can't undo what happened," she continued. "But I want you to know I'm getting my own place next month. A studio apartment I can actually afford on my salary. No more handouts." We parted with a tentative agreement to stay in touch, separate from the legal proceedings. It wasn't forgiveness or reconciliation yet, but it was an acknowledgement of truth, a necessary first step. Meanwhile, I put a portion of the recovered funds to work immediately. I established a small scholarship at Arizona State for students supporting themselves through college named in honor of Grandpa Joe. The first recipient was a young woman working 3 jobs while studying accounting, a story that resonated deeply with my own experience. I also developed a series of financial literacy workshops in partnership with the nonprofit where Mark and I had met. The curriculum specifically addressed financial abuse within families, a topic rarely discussed but widely experienced. Mark supported me throughout this period of intense change, offering emotional stability without trying to direct my decisions. When he proposed 6 months after the trust discovery, it came with thoughtful conversations about our financial partnership. "I want us to build something healthy together," he said as we discussed prenuptial agreements and joint financial goals. "Equal contribution based on our respective incomes, equal say in decisions, complete transparency." Planning our wedding became an exercise in implementing our shared values. We chose a meaningful celebration within our means without debt or financial stress. My relationship with my parents evolved into something I had never expected. After the settlement was finalized, they indeed sold their house to repay the misappropriated funds my mother reached out separately. "Your father and I are separating," she informed me during a tense phone call. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about my role in what happened. I enabled his decisions even when I knew they were wrong." She had begun therapy and joined a support group for codependent relationships. "I don't expect your forgiveness," she said, "but I hope someday we might have some kind of relationship again." My father proved less capable of introspection. He maintained that he had acted in the family's best interest, unable to see how his actions had betrayed his elder daughter. I established minimal contact with him, always in public settings with clear time limits. Amber's transformation proved surprisingly genuine. She completed financial counseling and secured a better-paying job that aligned with her administrative skills. Our relationship remained a work in progress, but periodic lunch meetings gradually built a foundation of more honest communication. During one such lunch, she mentioned receiving an email from a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years. "Leanne said something interesting," Amber reported. "Apparently, Dad did something similar with Uncle Brian's portion of Grandpa's estate. There was a dispute about it years ago that the family kept quiet." This revelation led to connections with extended family members who had experienced similar treatment. A pattern emerged of financial manipulation extending beyond our immediate family, a generational issue that had gone unaddressed for too long. Several months after Mark and I married, we purchased our first home together, a decision made with careful consideration of location, commute times, and long-term value rather than status or appearance. The process reflected our shared approach to financial decisions, thoughtful, transparent, and balanced. My career continued to advance, culminating in a director position specializing in family wealth management. My personal experience gave me unique insight into the emotional complexities of family financial dynamics, knowledge that proved invaluable to clients navigating similar challenges. On the one-year anniversary of discovering the trust fund, I received an unexpected package from Mr. Winters. Inside was a letter Grandpa Joe had written to be delivered when I took control of the trust at 30. Though circumstances had altered the timing, Mr. Winters felt I should have it now. "Dear Eden," it began in my grandfather's familiar handwriting. "If you're reading this, you've reached the milestone I set for you to take full control of your financial future. I established this trust because I saw in you a responsibility and wisdom beyond your years. I also saw how your parents treated you differently from your sister, and I wanted to ensure you had resources that were solely yours." Tears blurred my vision as I continued reading. "Money is never just about dollars and cents, Eden. It's about power, control, and the freedom to build the life you choose. Never let anyone make you feel selfish for protecting what is rightfully yours. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary." His words, written years earlier, spoke directly to my present reality with uncanny precision. "My greatest hope is that you'll use these resources to create financial security on your terms, and perhaps someday to break the unhealthy patterns that have run through our family for generations. You have always been stronger than you know." The letter concluded with a simple directive that resonated deeply. Build your life with intention, kindness, and clear boundaries. The rest will follow. Looking around at the home Mark and I had created, at the career I had built, and the healthy relationships I was nurturing, I realized I was doing exactly that. The painful journey of discovery had ultimately led to liberation, not just financial, but emotional. The money recovered from the trust was significant, but the true value lay in reclaiming my narrative. I wasn't selfish for expecting fair treatment. I wasn't obligated to compensate for my parents' financial irresponsibility. And I wasn't alone in establishing boundaries that protected my well-being. As I continue sharing my story, I hope it resonates with others who have experienced similar family dynamics. Financial exploitation often hides behind phrases like family obligation and being generous, making victims feel selfish for protecting themselves. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward breaking them. Have you ever had to stand your ground financially with family? What boundaries have you established to protect your financial well-being? Share your experiences in the comments below. If my story has helped you recognize unhealthy patterns in your own life, please subscribe for more content on financial independence and healthy boundaries. Remember that protecting yourself isn't selfish. It's essential for building the life you deserve. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you strength in creating your own path to financial and emotional freedom.